You weren't the only one in the room. You weren't even allowed in the room.
We thought maybe we weren't supposed to be in the room, and in turn, others didn't swing the door open for us. Think about how much I had to do, how big and bold, and I've actually raised $10 million now. We've invested in more than 130 companies now in 4 years. I had to do that to be a blip on the radar. I had to do all that just to be seen. And if I predict that if I were a different profile, I would be multimillionaire by now, personally. So the work that I just did would have been worth more, would have been valued higher. Why does it take that sort of story to get a black woman on the cover of something or to get headlines?
Imagine a world where everyone is the same gender and race. A world where they all wear the same clothes and have a shared belief system. Now imagine that someone wants to enter that world. Someone of a different race and gender. Someone who wears different clothes and subscribes to a different belief system. Arlan Hamilton, a 39-year-old venture capitalist, founder and managing partner of Backstage Capital, and prolific podcaster, was homeless and on food stamps before she appeared at the doorstep of the world of venture capitalism, demanding to be let in. But what if one day you were admitted to the world that had previously denied you admission? Would you take your well-earned seat at the table, content to be one of the boys? Or would you open the door for other people like you, who have also been underestimated by society? Hi, I'm Laura Cathcart-Robbins, and this is The Only One in the Room. In September 2018, I found myself in an all too familiar position. Looking around the room at the other attendees at a famed writers' retreat, I realized that I was the only black woman in the room. When I wrote about my experience for the Huffington Post, something surprising happened. 24 hours after my piece went live, I had 568 direct messages in my inbox. These were messages from people of all races, ethnicities, creeds, and nationalities who had connected with my piece because they too had felt othered. These are the stories we want to share. This podcast is for anyone who has ever felt alone in a room full of people, which is to say that this podcast is for everyone. Women are often faced with the challenges and pressures of doing it all and having to be the first or only one in the room. I know this firsthand because that is the genesis of this podcast. But it is a little easier when you've got someone who's been there, has your back, or can offer smart, practical advice. So what I'm saying is if you like this podcast, and obviously you do because you're listening to us, you're going to love For Future Reference. It's a new show from Wonder Media Network. Hosts Tori Taylor and Ambar Cavillo Rivera bring a weekly dose of balance and real talk with women who are in the same boat. They dig into topics like modern-day mentorship, building authentic relationships, doing it all or not, and what it really means to survive and thrive. They have candid conversations about failures and successes and how women have stepped in to help lift them up in professional and personal ways. It's advice and food for thought that you can use right now or just keep around for future reference. Listen to new episodes for Future Reference every Tuesday wherever you get your podcasts. You're listening to The Only One in the Room, presented by Lipstick and Vinyl and executively produced by Christina Barcy. Make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and be sure to like and leave us a review of your thoughts on the show. And if you have an Only One in the Room story you'd like to share, you can DM us on Instagram at The Only One in the Room. Enjoy the show. Are you a breakfast eater?
Not really, not usually.
What's like your typical first meal of the day?
Something that has been delivered to me at
Yes.
this point because I'm just running, and I never was a big cooker, which I love to do. My wife cooks, but
Nice.
we like to figure our food out individually for the most part. We're not big on like making sure that we cook for each other. But yeah, I'll have like something from like tender greens or sweet greens or something that with the word greens in it.
Right.
And hope that it's healthy.
That it's healthy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah.
All right, well, good. Thank you for that.
Sure.
I am Laura Cathcart-Robbins, and this is The Only One in the Room. But I am never the only one in this room because, as usual, my boyfriend, producer, and co-host, Scott Slaughter, who I call Hun, is here as well.
Hi, honey.
Hi, honey. So I noticed you were going over some numbers over there. And at first, I thought it might be because our guest today, Arlan Hamilton, is a venture capitalist. And you wanted to look good. But then I realized that you were going over our stats. Anything interesting?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've got such loyal listeners in just about every state, which is amazing. And we are so grateful. But check it out. We have exactly the same number of listeners in Florida, where your family lives, as we have in Virginia, where I'm from.
Okay, I think I hear a challenge coming.
Yeah, so if you live in the state of Virginia, when you listen to the episode, be sure to share it with at least 3 people.
And the same if you live in Florida.
Now, come on, Virginia. Now, it's been proven that people who share podcasts are 50% smarter than everyone else.
It's true. Sharing a podcast makes you feel good and look really smart.
Okay, so the gauntlet has been thrown. We'll see who wins when we get the next round of stats. Say, come on, Slade. Let's get Virginia on top.
Let's go, Florida family. Dr. Ronald Cathcart, Kofi J, Felicia Veranda. All I want to do is win, 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 no matter what. Okay, enough of that.
Yeah.
I'd like to introduce this boss lady beside me. Arlan Hamilton built a venture capital fund from the ground up while homeless. She is the founder and managing partner of Backstage Capital, a fund that is dedicated to minimizing funding disparities in tech by investing in high-potential founders who are people of color, women, and or LGBT. Started from scratch in 2015, Backstage has now invested nearly $5 million into 100 startup companies led by underestimated founders. In 2018, Arlan co-founded Backstage Studio, which launched 4 accelerator programs for underestimated founders in Detroit, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and London. I also wanted to add that she is the subject of a whole season of the Startup Podcast, which was very helpful to me while I was doing my research. Okay, I'm just going to switch to you just for a second. You did 2 more podcasts after that. Was one called Backstage Capital?
It was called Bootstrapped VC from Backstage Capital.
And then, which is the name of your company.
Yes.
And now there's another podcast that launched earlier this year called Your First Million.
That's right.
Right, which is also, I was very invested in that one.
Very good, very good.
Thank you.
Oh, welcome, Arlan. Good to have you
Thanks.
here. Yes, thanks. I was so enjoying the conversation, I kind of checked out for a minute. I was like, yeah.
So I have a fellow writer friend who I've never met. You know, this podcast came about because I wrote an article for the Huffington Post about being the only Black person at the Brave Magic retreat, and she contacted me for the possibility of writing for Forbes after that, and we just became friends. And I happened to mention that I was interviewing you today, and she lost her mind.
That's very sweet.
Oh, my goodness. It was just, and she texted me this morning, like, I hope it goes well.
Oh, what's her name?
So Lilia Gowland
Cool.
of
Hey,
New
Lilia.
Orleans. Yes. She is going to be really excited to hear this and hear you. So that was exciting for me to have, you know, just mentioning a guest that I have and have people get really excited about it.
Oh, that's really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what we want. So before we get into your only one in the room experience per se,
Sure.
let's just kind of go through what makes you you. I was watching one of the interviews and they said, did they say what makes you you? What makes Arlan Hamilton? It was like that beaches moment. And,
Yeah,
and you
that's what I
said to
said.
the
It was
audience,
like, beaches.
Yeah. And I was like, yes, beaches. I know
Yes.
that part of the
Yes.
movie.
It's my favorite movie in the world.
Oh, is it?
And that scene where she sees herself on daytime television.
Yes.
Being so...
CeCe Bloom.
Taking herself so seriously.
Yes.
I forget what she says, but it's just so, like,
What
self-reflective.
makes you you,
Yeah.
right?
And it's in the third person, and
Right.
it's all that. And so it's just... I'm just
It's
like,
great.
Every once in a while I have a surreal moment, like, people actually care?
Yeah. Right?
That's interesting.
It's amazing. I want to get a little bit into venture capitalism. So I pulled this quote from Philadelphia, where Denzel Washington is the defense attorney, and he says, tell me like a 2-year-old.
Yes.
Explain
Yeah,
it to me
yeah.
like a 2-year-old.
Yeah,
What is
yeah.
venture capitalism?
Venture capital is the funding that a lot of companies choose to take on as sort of innovative capital to help them scale and grow and get bigger and better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an option. So of all of private equity, it's 2%. It's a small sliver of capital when you look at it that way, but it's in the billions of dollars. So
Right.
most of the startups or the companies that we use today that have been around for fewer than 30 years probably could have taken on venture capital or have. Like, so Airbnb, for instance, took on venture capital as a way of growing bigger and bigger. But, for people in their everyday lives, it's not as important to know that. But it starts to trickle down and starts to make sense when you peel it back.
Right. So the way I understand it, and I only understand this at all from researching you last week.
Cool.
So
that sounds good.
So,
my publishers will like that.
Yeah. Good. So please jump in and correct me when I'm wrong. But you don't invest your own money, right? A venture capitalist. Is it venture capitalist?
You're a venture capitalist or a VC, sure. And so the reason I pause there is because theoretically, I know what you're saying, but it's actually not as accurate as you'd think.
Okay.
Because usually a venture capitalist needs to put a little bit of skin in the game if they have a venture fund, which is what most VCs do.
Right.
And so you are expected to. It's customary to put in 1, 2, or more % of the fund size out of your own pocket. Mm-hmm. So that can be from your salary, or it can be from something called a management fee that we all get for managing the capital, but it has to be post-tax.
Oh.
So, we can get into it if you want, but it's really just, the purpose of that is so that you're not just out there willy-nilly spending someone else's money.
Right.
You're out there, and if you do well or if you do poorly, it really affects you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you gather money from investors. You put a little of your own money in.
Right.
They're investing in you, not necessarily in the things that you're going to invest in, because they trust that you have.
Yeah, they're symbolically investing in you, the person,
right,
to put their money to work into other companies.
Right. And the other thing that I think I understand is that you're going to invest in a few different startups with the understanding that most of them are going to fail. Is that right?
Yes, and you said you were at a writing retreat. So
yes.
If you think about the publishing industry and writing books, most publishers don't just have 1 or 2 books out there. They put several books out there, and they know that some of them will do better than others.
Right.
And that's how they stay in business, is the outliers that come through.
Yes. So we're looking for the next Airbnb or the next Google or the next Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix.
But in the meantime, what you do is in its own category, because you're investing in a special, very, very, very small sliver of the population. Is that correct?
Again, it's like right and wrong, because I'm investing in what they would call niche, but if you think about it, I'm investing in women, people of color, and LGBT founders. That's the majority of the population of the United States, if you put it all together.
Right.
So it's more like I'm investing in people who have been overlooked in the past.
Yes.
So it seems like it's this thing over in the corner and this new thing, but it's actually, if you peel it back, it's like, wow, no, this actually makes more sense.
Yeah.
To let everybody be part of it.
Yeah, and you're right. I completely misspoke there, because what I meant was that you were investing in a population that doesn't get invested in.
That's right.
Yes.
So this population gets a small portion of venture capital.
Right. Thank you.
Yes.
And, I loved, in one of the interviews that I watched, you spoke with great enthusiasm about the time in the future when the rooms in which you've been invited to sit in now are populated with all different types of people. Can you talk about that a little bit? Do you remember that interview?
I've said it more than once, but it's my North Star.
Yeah.
It's the reason that I get up and work on this day after day and have the stamina for it and the tenacity for it, because that is the thing. That is the reason. That is the thing you hope for. And what it may not hit you. It may not hit me that day that it happened, but over time I'll one day walk into rooms, and I think it's a few years out, but I'll walk into rooms and tech hubs across the country, and I'll see those rooms reflecting the United States in a more accurate way. And I think it'll happen, and it'll be so slow. I mean, not slow to happen, but it'll be so subtle that I won't even notice that it happened. And then over time, I'll see it, and I'll be like, you know what? This is what we fought for.
Right.
This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 90% of all VC funds go to white men.
Correct.
So again, going back to the only one in the room, you weren't the only one in the room. You weren't even allowed in the room when you first started, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different than what our parents had to go through,
right?
Which is they were literally not allowed in the room. But
Yes,
I think
yes.
because of that, we thought maybe we weren't supposed to be in the room, and in turn, others didn't swing the door open for us.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a little bit of like keeping it under cloak and dagger. And you see, in this introduction, just a few sentences, a few paragraphs, looking up a few articles, you can learn more about venture capital. I used to think it was this thing that I could never be part of. It was this, it's like talking about Wall Street. I used to think like that is something akin to being a doctor or
right.
something, and it's not. It is not. It just So there were rooms that I was definitely making my way into.
Mm-hmm. Well, you say it's not akin to being a doctor, so you don't need that kind of specialized education to get into it. But what do you need in order to be successful at what you're doing?
Yeah, I think there are some really intelligent people and really, really special people that are in venture capital. I really do. I oftentimes, take punches at it, but I do. There are some people who I consider visionaries that are in it. But for the most part, venture capital is about taste. Mm-hmm. It's about common sense in a really interesting way. It's about instinct, and it's about purpose and intent and having clarity of thought and clarity of intention and focus.
Yeah.
And all of the other stuff, because there is not one person on this planet who can predict the future in a way to say they're going to have a 10x. Their fund is going to do 10 times better than when it started. There's just no one who can do that. Right. There's a lot of luck that comes into it, a lot of just odds that come into play. And I consider myself to be an intelligent person, but I definitely am not. I'm not educated by any sort of college or university. And I'm in rooms with billionaires and millionaires making decisions and countering them. And I think that you really need to research it if you're interested in it. Research it, understand that it takes a lot of time too. That's the thing. They say that it takes 7 years to find out if a VC is good. So you have 7 years where you're just hoping that the bets you made that first and second year start to pan out and show up for you.
Right.
And some people use that in a way that's opportunistic and kind of in a bad way, where they just sort of float. They get a bunch of money. They're more salespersons than anything else. But some other people use it as this is like, I'm going to use every day of these 7 years to be the best I can be. And the only thing you can really control in those 7 years, give or take, is how you treat people and how you interact with people and building your reputation in that way. And so that's where, if you're seeing someone 4 years in to 6 years in, ask the founders that they interact with. Mm-hmm. How has this experience been? How do they work on due diligence? Like, how do they assess you? That sort of thing. That's where that's what the meat and potatoes of it. Or the tofu and potatoes for my
your vegan
friends.
Yes.
Thank you.
You talked about pattern matching in, I don't know which podcast it was. It might have been Your First Million. How do race and gender so white men invest in white men, which is what pattern matching is, right?
Yeah, for the most part.
How do race and gender factor into who gets funded now? Is there anything outside of pattern matching, or is it just pattern matching?
No. Yeah. It's definitely, there's outside of pattern matching. And I have to be clear that I don't think that straight white men are walking around the country and just saying, we're only going to invest in white men because we purposely want to do this. There's a very small group that does that. I think mostly it's just like, it's part of your networks. Like, it's part of what you're used to. So you don't even think about what you don't know. Yeah. Venture capital and investing in general, if you're like an angel investor, because it applies to them too, it's about relationships. It's relationship driven. So if most of your friends are a certain group of people, and then you ask them, you kind of put the word out, hey, I'm looking for companies, and they only hang out with a certain group of people, whether that's across race or even like socioeconomical lines, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see that over and over. And that's where the pattern matching comes in is there's an investor. His name is Paul Graham, and he runs an accelerator called Y Combinator, which was the training ground for Airbnb, Dropbox, and so many other unicorn companies that are worth $1 billion or more. That's what a unicorn is. And he once said that he pattern matches basically for a young geek in a hoodie because of Mark Zuckerberg. And there's another investor, and that's not bad. There's a lot of bad things in the world. That's not like he's evil to say that, but he's kind of showing his colors, right? And then there's
as it were.
Yes, exactly. Then there's an investor named John Doerr, and he actually said that his favorite type of founder is a young white guy who has no social life or something to that effect. And he said the word white, and he said the word guy. Mm-hmm. Because he's watched the Bill Gates and the this and the that happen. And it kind of just feeds on itself. So somewhere in their minds, they say to themselves, well, this is what has been successful, so I'm going to go find that. But if it manifests itself, it's like self-manifesting. If you only put the venture capital behind the same types of people, of course they're going to do well when compared to others who don't have the same resources. And then you of course you're going to be able to say, well, look, I was right. I mean, I think that for any other reason, just to kind of experiment to see, it would be a good reason to invest in others.
Yeah, I like that. It reminds me of that book, Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria?
That's a book?
That's a book.
Wow,
yeah.
I want to read that.
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, it sounds like a great title.
And it's just talking about that comfortability and that affinity.
Yeah.
It's not because they don't like the other kids. It's not because they're not interested in them.
Yeah.
There's just this comfort and community there. And it happens over and over again in every school. You will see that if there is a small number of black kids, they're probably going to be sitting together in their common spaces.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, I wrote this down, that you refused to wear a school uniform for, what was the name of that school?
Hockaday in Dallas, Texas.
That was one of the things that made you decide against going there.
One of the things,
yes. Yeah. And I know that something else came out later because you had taken kind of a detailed account of what it would cost, right, for you to go there, and you wanted to spare your mother.
Yeah. We still argue about that. She still doesn't remember it that way, but it's certainly what happened.
So just to kind of talk about that for a minute, you grew up in Dallas?
Dallas.
And it was your mom. She was a single mom.
Yes.
She is a single mom.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was you and your brother?
Well, she's not really a single mom anymore because she's married, but yes.
Oh, good for her.
I guess.
Yeah. But you have a sibling.
I do. My brother is actually visiting LA right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the three of you were it was you guys against the world, kind of.
Yeah.
And you grew up very close.
Yes.
And there wasn't a lot of money.
Correct.
And so you, at age 7, which is what I have in my notes, started kind of taking care of how you guys were going to make it in the world and what would... Yeah.
I mean, my part there at 7 was just taking care of my brother.
Yeah.
You know, there was no babysitter. There was no that. So it was, I would just take him to school. And when he was of age to do that, or I would take care of what was needed in that way.
So then this really prestigious school comes calling.
Yeah.
And they want you to attend there. And you go to the campus and take some quick addition in your head.
Yeah.
And say, this is going to be too much. So you say, I'm not wearing a uniform.
That's right.
I'm not going.
That's what happened, yes. And I thought I would kind of get away with that until Gimlet came along and did the podcast series where they interviewed my mom for like 8 hours one day and it came out. But yeah, that's what happened. I remember walking around and it was beautiful grounds, and it was kind of like what you've seen on a TV show where someone's walking around and they're seeing this sort of place you go, this school you go away to, boarding school or something. And it was cool. It seemed like I would get a really interesting education, and I was doing really well at my own school, which I liked as well. Mm-hmm. And they were saying, well, you get to do this, and then you have piano recital, and you do this. And I started thinking, well, who's paying for that? And then we went into the office where they start talking about pricing, and I see my mom looking at these brochures, and she's smiling, and she's like, oh, yes. And I know in my mind at that point, probably, I don't know what grade it was, but I was in elementary school. I know in my mind that meant that my mom was going to figure it out, and because she was she is that person.
Yeah.
But I didn't think she needed to with all the troubles we had. So why, I didn't want to have that on my shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, I don't want to go because they have to wear dresses, and I don't want to wear a dress.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thought that statement about not wanting to wear a uniform was kind of prophetic, because you still don't wear a uniform. You don't wear the uniform.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't
actually
know.
created my own uniform.
Yes.
People said that I wear like my hoodie and my jeans and my purple shoes is the Arlan uniform.
Yeah. I like it,
It works. Thank you.
You're welcome. So there was another thing that I found that I really liked, and it reminded me, I'll go back to it. When I was in my 20s, I owned a public relations firm here in Los Angeles. At the time, I was the only Black-owned PR firm in the entertainment industry.
That's crazy.
Right? And I was very small, very boutique, but I ended up getting all the quote-unquote urban projects for major studios and labels and, individuals. I would do, and urban is code for Black.
Yes, it is.
So I would do those projects, and I fully understood that the reason I was getting them is not because I was the most qualified person, but because I was Black. And I had no problem taking the money
right.
at the time. So you said something about another series that I love, which is Designing Women. And you were talking about Anthony had this moment where he was recruited into a
country club.
Can you tell us that story? And why it was important to the point you were making?
There is an episode of Designing Women, which is still a great show to watch in reruns. And Anthony, it's several white women. Anthony is a Black man who came out of jail, a prison for a while, and he works with them. And he is in the South, and he's recruited one day to be the first Black member of this country club. And over time, over the episode, the very sharp women who love him to death kind of pull him to the side and say, we're worried about you because we know you're being used as a token. We found out that they're using you as a token. They have to have a certain, number,
a quota
here. And he feigns disbelief, kind of in a joking way, but you find out that he knew it all along.
Right.
And that's why he would smile as big as he could in the pictures and hug everybody and kiss people on the cheek and men on the cheek and just really make a scene with it, because at the end of the day, he knew that that's what they were thinking, but he had his own agenda, and his agenda was, I need to be the first so that I can swing the door open for others.
Right.
And I'm going to do it. While I'm doing that, I'm going to do it with a little bit of flair.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that really just resonated. I remember watching that when I was a child and watching it in reruns, and it just resonated and reminded me so much of some of the rooms I've been in Silicon Valley and beyond, where I know I'm in after a little bit of time. Before, people wouldn't really look at me, but after some time where I got a little bit of notoriety, I started getting these invitations to these places where I used to beg to go. And now it's like, can you be in the room? And I'm like, yeah, I can be in the room. And then I would just wait. I would be like, they're going to pull out the camera.
Yeah.
They're going to get the angle of me, because then that helps them look like they met their quota. And I would either ham it up and be like, yeah, sure, let's do it. Let's figure out how to get more amplification for backstage here. Or I would do something, petty, like put a menu up against my face or something when I knew it was happening, or turn or dip out. Because you want to control how you're being used.
Yes. I like that. I have some very, very well-intentioned, sweet friends of the dominant culture who will often say, you have to meet my friend so-and-so, and omit the fact that they're Black, but the way that they're telling me, I know that that's why.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I see them, I'm like, okay, there it is. One more time.
Yeah.
It's
You'll get along.
Yeah. You'll get along. It's
that happens a lot too with gay people.
Mm.
People, well-meaning people will say, well, you need to know Sharon.
Right.
It's like, okay.
Why?
I understand that. She's either Black or she's gay.
Right. Exactly. All right. So here's something that I didn't really get from my research on you, but I kind of gleaned from, they didn't come right out of a story. But so people, especially most of the people that I found that were interviewing you, love a rags to riches story, right?
Yes.
It gets more interesting when you're female, more interesting when you're a woman of color, and even more interesting when you're Black, gay, and female, is from my perception. So you've been homeless, you've been on food stamps, you've had to rely on the kindness of your friends and family for places to sleep. How do you tell your story to people of the dominant culture and prevent them from focusing on that part of your story? Like, has that been difficult? And how do you change the narrative around that without that? Because it is part of your story.
It is part of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, time heals most things, but and it also kind of changes the perception of most things.
Yeah.
So I do remember a time where I very vehemently said, I don't want that to be the headline. I don't want you to do that. And then it came about like in 2016 where, so maybe I can tell you that story, and that could help describe what I'm going to say.
Please.
After that. So this is all pretty raw for me. This is 2019 right now, and I was sleeping on the floor of an airport in summer 2015. So it's just right there. It's like the memory is really raw, and all this stuff has happened in between. But about a year into the fund, after I'd gotten my first investor, I was interviewed like 3 different times for Inc. And by a really great journalist who's gone on to do some really awesome stuff. And he was great. And we did this interview, and it was like 3 hours total. And for about 10 minutes, we talked about me sleeping on the floor of the airport or different ways of being homeless. And the rest of it was not about that. And at the end of it, I said, you know what? I don't want to like wake up to this being like a from homeless to Harvard story. I really don't, because I think that'll be distracting. And he said, well, I don't really write the headlines. My editor does. So don't you know, when I woke up that day in August 2016,
Right.
that was the headline, was from homeless to venture or something. I don't remember it. And I just kind of got under my covers, and I was like, every time someone looks at me now, they're going to just see that, and they're going to feel pity, and that's not what I am. I'm stronger than that. And I was really upset. And then about an hour into it, I started getting messages from all over the world, from mostly women who said, and a lot of like, and some LGBT folks who said, I'm homeless right now, and you just gave me a year's worth of inspiration. I'm going to make it because I read what you did. Or I've been there, or I feel this other way that I'm down and out, and you have made me feel like I can do anything.
Wow. And
once I understood it wasn't about me, I was like, okay, y'all can have that. Like, this is not about me. This is about a lot of things that I represent. And I saw that again when I was on the cover of Fast Company, because as adorable as I am,
yes,
that's not why it did so well. Like, it did as really well on the physical on the copies in person, which they were noticing. And I don't think it was because of me. I think it was because people were seeing someone who was not a celebrity and who looked like them in some way or represented them, and they wanted to be part of that history. So that's how I look at that. Today, I try to remind groups that have more privilege that if you invest in me, for instance, you don't need to go home and pat yourself on the back and act like you've done your
Yes.
charity for the year.
Yes.
That's not what this is. I'm either going to be really good or not that great as an investor, and you need to judge me on that. You need to ask me questions. You need to hold me accountable.
Right.
And that's where we are. And I try to explain that because I worry about that sometimes. Like, I was just talking to someone about meritocracy.
Yes.
And they said that because I went from where I did to where I am now, that's proof that meritocracy works, or that it is a meritocracy, I should say. And I'm like, think about how much I had to do, how big and bold, and I've actually raised more like 10 million now. We've invested in more than 130 companies now.
Wow.
And think about that in 4 years. I had to do that to be a blip on the radar. So in one way, it's not a meritocracy because I had to do all that just to be seen. And if I predict that if I were a different profile, I would be multimillionaire by now, personally. So the work that I just did would have been worth more, would have been valued higher. So that's one way of looking at it. And another way of looking at it is why does it take that sort of story to get a black woman on the cover of something or to get headlines? What about all the people who have done extraordinary things in business, but their headlines are taken by men who they raised $1.5 million on a pitch deck.
Right.
So I still don't believe in the meritocracy situation.
Well, that's really interesting for a lot of reasons to me. And, a meritocracy is reward based on merit, right, and not based on any other factor. And that can only really be in play if there's a level playing field, right? So what you're describing is that the playing field isn't level, so everything that you had to do in order to get to the same or even near the same place as other people who are being recognized it can't just be a meritocracy.
Yeah, I just think about it in if I take myself out of it again and I think about what I have done in the past 4 years, and then I think about the different conversations and people I've met and the guys who have these roles and these salaries and these positions and the assets under management and the tens of millions and hundreds of millions, and haven't and maybe wouldn't in some cases do half of what I've done.
Yeah.
But I'm still every month looking at what our salaries look like at, payroll. Let's figure out payroll for the company. Mm-hmm. And I think about that, and I know just from that experience that it's not equal. It's not fair. No. So I can't hear someone say, well, you're proof of that. I'm like, no, I'm actually proof of that total opposite. Yeah. Because I've just done the case study. And I know where I stand right now. Mm-hmm. And soon that will change, but it hasn't changed yet.
Wow. You touched a little bit about that you don't have a formal education.
Yep.
How did you then, I actually know the answer to this, but please talk about how you became what you are, who you are, doing what you do without a formal education. Mm-hmm. How did you go from Arlan in high school to Arlan who's sitting opposite me today?
Well, that's 20 years. So that's
condense. Yeah.
I haven't had a formal education beyond graduating high school and a little bit of community college. That's not to say that I got into colleges and it's all again about money, but it's I feel like I'm a student. Oh, I'm definitely a student. So I started out of school really trying to learn from the environment around me and seeking knowledge and being insatiably curious. Yeah. So I don't think I ever stopped my education. It just wasn't a formal education.
Right.
So in anything I've wanted to do, I've kind of built the curriculum around myself. I wanted to work on tours, on music tours. So I taught myself everything I could about how to be a production assistant and a production coordinator and a tour manager. And I brought it to me. I made it happen for me. So I became a tour manager and production coordinator. I wanted to start my own magazine. So I studied everything I could, and I started my own magazine that I published for several years, print magazine. And then I wanted to start another company, but in the tech world. I did a lot of research, and it was in that research that I understood and found out about the stats about venture capital, and then so I switched gears. Mm-hmm. And I said, instead of putting all the energy into starting this company, I'm going to put the energy into investing in others who are trying to do the same.
Did you teach yourself how to code at some point in there?
No. If you were to go to my apartment right now, you would see the stove blinking the time. I'm one of the least technical people.
Oh, you are, but you just love technology.
I feel like I could learn. Oh, I love the people around technology, and I love what it represents and what it can accomplish. I'm a photographer, and that's sort of self-taught too. And the thing is, I'm a photographer, but I don't, beyond really basic stuff about aperture and speed, I really have a hard time understanding the technical aspects of photography, but I always seem to hack my way. So now, but I have a great eye, so I have these great photographs. But I couldn't tell you, I couldn't make a video and say I had it on this and this and that, and that's why, and the light beamed off of this. It's just it's instinct.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I treat most of the things. I learn as much as I possibly can around it, and then I make it work for me. Tech-wise, I do want to learn some coding.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be pretty smart. As smart as learning more Spanish and a little bit of Chinese.
Yes.
I think that's how you look at it. Like if you don't want to make it your life,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's smart to at least know how to get yourself in and out of a situation if need be.
Yeah, I agree. Mandarin.
Exactly.
Yes. So you were doing most of what you described while you were still in Dallas, right? Or still in Texas, or a lot of what you described?
A lot of it, yeah. In 2015, I moved to Pflugerville, Austin, which is part of Austin.
Wait, Pflugerville is in Texas?
Yeah.
It's a really cute name.
It is cute. However, don't do what I did and Wikipedia that stuff, because we were there just to having a great old time in our little Airbnb. And then I learned, it's like where they landed with slave trader.
Yeah. So it has that whole side of the history.
Like a German dude who was a slave trader.
Pflugerville.
Yeah, yes. So it's not you would think it's like Rosen Island if you're going to go back there. It's like, that's where she would live. But no, I hope not.
Oh my God, we love all the same shows.
Yeah. Oh man. Talk to me about
the Golden Girls.
Talk to me about some Golden Girls any day of the week. Now this will really show it.
Tell me.
Do you watch General Hospital?
Oh. No,
it's okay.
I was on my children.
This interview's over. I'm gonna.
No, please. I did watch a little bit. My ex-husband was actually on General Hospital for a little bit.
What sort of year?
I would say probably the 80s.
Okay.
John Stamos was on. Who was he on the show? I can't remember.
Blackie.
Blackie.
You know why? I've never seen him on there, but I was like, why is his name Blackie?
Right.
Yes.
So he was his friend on the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. So that's
interesting
cool.
fact.
That's
fun
enough
fact.
of points.
Okay.
That'll work.
All right.
That'll work. But yeah, I love all those shows.
Mm-hmm. So Pflugerville, you move. I know that you were you mentioned that you were sleeping in the airport while you were looking for.
Yeah, I was in San Francisco and Silicon Valley area for half of 2015.
Mm-hmm. So you also mentioned at the top of the show, just briefly, that you have a wife.
I do have a wife.
Which means to me, because you weren't married in July, that you just got married.
That is correct. Yes, that is correct.
So
got married a week and a half ago.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing. So your wife, Anna, launched your podcast.
Yeah, she helped us with the editing and the producing at the beginning.
That's amazing. And I don't know if you like to talk about her, don't like to talk about her. I'm curious how you met.
Oh, yeah. I love talking about
it.
So I call her Anna because I'm Texan, and she allows me to. But you're saying it correctly.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing that. She'll love that. She's German, and we actually met online, which most of my relationship started online, actually. And I used to have a blog called Your First Million on the Brain. I used to have a blog called Your Daily Lesbian Moment.
Oh.
For several years. That was quite popular. And she says that she wasn't a stan for that. Mm-hmm. But I kind of think that's where she found me. But she says she found me on Twitter. I think it was on Facebook and that blog, but we'll continue to argue about that. And that was like 2000, end of 2014. We just started talking just very casually about, we both are very ambitious. And so she saw me talking about my blog and the things I wanted to do. And so she called me, and I used to have like a thing where you could call and consult with me. Mm. And so she booked a couple of hours doing that. And we talked, and I looked at her videos. She does some great videos on YouTube about pop culture. Thought they were really great, and kind of like immediately thought she was cute. I was like, oh, she's so cute. But then I kept it professional, you know. So I was like, oh, she's cute. I'll lock that in and keep on going. And then things got really rough. And I had been sharing a hotel room with my mom. She was in her 60s. You know, we were just kind of like trying to make ends meet. So I really didn't have any social life. And I would get on WhatsApp and just start chatting with Anna because she was one of the people I was talking to.
Was she in Germany.
At the time, she was in Germany,
Okay.
Berlin, and then she actually moved to Barcelona during this time too. So we talked for a few months, and then all of a sudden it definitely turned romantic, and it was like more, we were like talking every single day, and it was more like I was telling her a little bit about what was going on, but I didn't tell her a lot. And then by the summer of 2015, I let her know. I was like, I'm on the ground here at the airport. Like, I don't have any money, all of that. And she's like, okay. She's like, I wish I could help. And that's all. And then it was back to just adoring me. And it was more like she thought, it was just like we just really enjoyed each other's points of view. And she kind of opened my mind to a lot of things. And I had gone through a terrible relationship. I don't recommend that. But I had gone through just a horrible relationship prior to her, so I wasn't even looking for it. And then we kind of knew, like in that summer, that we wanted to find a way to see each other. And then all of a sudden, boom! I get the fund. I'm going, and then. On my birthday in October of 2015, I flew to Barcelona, where she was now living. We met, and it was on. It was just like, I want to spend every day with you.
Wow.
You are the one.
Oh.
And the fact that she was there with me when I had nothing, she didn't know if anything would ever break. She didn't care. She just liked me. That's so helpful these days.
Yeah.
And so I proposed November 2017, and it took...
Oh, you proposed?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it took 19 months to get her visa.
Okay.
And then so the 6 days after she landed in L.A., we got married.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Yeah. One of our favorite things, we actually... We're both in recovery. Mm-hmm. We met the first day we went into treatment 11 years ago.
Oh, wow. Can I ask recovery for what?
Me for pills and alcohol,
Yes.
and him for alcohol.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know that I'm sober for 2 years,
I
right?
do.
Yeah.
I do. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
But anyway, one of our favorite things about our relationship is that we've never had an opportunity to be anything but authentic with one another,
right.
because there was no fronting
Yeah.
at that moment. That was not happening, and I've never had to. So to see somebody, not literally naked but figuratively naked in that way, and still love, adore, cherish, support them, it's like you saw me at my worst, and here you are still.
Yes. It's like family.
Yeah.
It's like the best part of your family.
The best part of your family
is someone who can do that.
Yes.
Because they've just seen, like, there's just no way around it. They've seen everything.
Yeah.
That's how I think about Anna. She's like family.
Wonderful. Do you want to talk about your sobriety a little bit? Because I know that you started with a book, or was it a book?
Yeah, it was a book. That's what helped me.
Yeah.
So I've been drinking since I was 21. I did wait till I was 21. Believe it or not, I did.
That's very rare, especially for Texas.
I used to hate seeing people drunk, and it just really bothered me if somebody was drunk. So I waited till I was 21 just because it was like more social. And I drank, and I think it was okay. I think it was I'm pretty sure it was like a normal 20s kind of situation. But then around mid-20s, a few years in, I started realizing I was drinking alone. I was drinking every day. And I was drinking to celebrate, and I was drinking when I was sad. And that's when I kind of just started noticing a little bit, but I didn't really understand that I was addicted. And then it was I think it was 2008 that, it was definitely 2008, which I would have been 27.
Mm-hmm. Baby.
I had these two British roommates, and in Sherman Oaks, and we had this kind of cool place, and we were just making ends meet still. I was, but it was kind of fun and everything, and we'd have parties, and we'd go out and party and all that. And one day we were cleaning up to get ready for a party at the place, and there were this line of vodkas bottles, like fifths of vodka. And I asked them, I was like, who killed all the vodka? I was like, hey, man, who killed all the vodka? Did y'all do something that I didn't know about? And I was totally serious. Yeah. And they were like, they looked at me and they're like, Arlan, you did that.
Wow.
You drank every drop of that.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about? And I started doing the math, and I'm like, oh, okay, so I do drink every day, and I drink to get drunk and beyond. I drink 5, 6, 7 hard pours, drinks, and I drink, whatever. And then I was like, wait a minute, I need a drink to go across the street to the grocery store. That's weird. And I truly, honestly, that day I was like, oh, I'm addicted to alcohol. I really didn't know it. I want to do something about it. So I tried to do something about it. From that started a journey of trying to go cold turkey or do this, and that never really worked. And I had a couple of rock bottom moments, and I stopped for a year and a half a few years ago, like 2009. I stopped for a year and a half because I think it saved my life to do that physically. And then I celebrated one day by getting drunk. Yeah. I was like a year and a half. I'm like, I'm an adult. I'm in my 30s now. Like I turned 30. I don't think it's sustainable for me not to drink. So I was able to stop for a year and a half. I am going to be able to drink one drink, and that'll be it. And it took about a week for that to fade away, and I was right back at it. And all years went by, all sorts of things happened in my life, and I had the fund. And it was the middle of, 2017. And Pride was coming up in West Hollywood where I lived. And I was like, I'm going to be drunk then, so I'm not going to do anything about it. But I said, after Pride, I'm going to check myself into a rehab center because I think I might be back to where I was before. Anna was in my life, and she had given me some signals that this was not cool, And I thought, man, I'm going to have to stop working on the fund and go to rehab, but it's the best thing to do. So I was just looking at some books. I'm like, let me just try a book or something. Like, how you go and you try to get hypnotized. You try to do anything you can do.
Yeah. And
I said, well, let me just try to do that over the weekend just in case it works and blah, blah, blah. But I'm at Pride. So I found this book called This Naked Mind. And and I was an Audible, and I was like, okay, it has really great reviews, whatever, we'll see. And then it's being read by a woman, so probably we'll listen to it.
Right.
Because I can relate. It's like having a fitness trainer who's has been big before. It just kind of works for me. It's just, because I'm so stubborn, I need to have, stack the deck for myself to succeed. Yeah. So the very first thing it said was, you can keep drinking while you listen to this. And I was like, all right, it's on and popping. This will work. It's Pride. Let's go. So, drunk for Pride, drunk for after Pride. And the fifth day, it took me 5 days to listen to it. The only thing they said was you have to not drink while you're listening. You can't drink while you're listening.
While you're actually listening to the book.
Yeah, but you can drink that day.
Right, until you finish it.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. So the whole time I was like, this is really interesting stuff. And I was shaking my head a lot too. And I was like, yeah, that's so relatable. But I really didn't think it was going to work. I was like, this is good. 5th day, it was over. I go to my little cubby hole, my little cupboard, pick out my my Jack and Diet materials. And I pull the bottle out, and I'm like, all right, here we go. And I'm looking at the bottle. I'm every single day of my life, I drink 5, 6, 7 of these things every single day, right around Maddow. It's like clockwork, at this point.
Rachel, no.
Yeah. Rachel Maddow. Rachel Maddow was my signal to start getting blasted. Yeah. Because you're going to hear about some Trump, or you're going to hear about the world, and you're also going to have Maddow. She used to do little drinks and everything.
Yep.
And it was after work hours, so I wouldn't be messing anything up, right? I pulled that bottle out, and I looked at it, and I remember it being in my hand. I can still see it. I can remember it being in my hand. But that little rush that I used to get, it's on time, I didn't get the rush. What in the world? I was like, well, maybe they hypnotized me. Maybe it'll go away tomorrow. So I put it back in. I was like, all right, I'll take a break. Whatever. Cool. Weird, but cool. The next day, pull it back out. I don't want it. And usually when I've had a really bad hangover or a really bad something has happened, what I'll do is take the bottle and pour it down the sink and throw it in the garbage. And I'm never going to have you again. And this whole thing, I'm exercising you. I didn't even do that. It wasn't like it had any power over me, so I can just leave it in there.
You were neutral.
Yeah, I was neutral. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
And so I did that, and then I did that, and I haven't had a drink since that day.
Amazing.
That 5th day.
That was 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It was 2 years ago in July, and it was after 16 years
Yeah.
of explosive, ridiculous drinking.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's good for you. you
Yeah.
know? If it's getting in the way of your life,
Yeah.
if it's getting in the way, if drinking or using is getting in the way of your life and you can't show up the way you like to,
Mhm.
it is good to put it down
Yeah.
and be released from that.
Yeah.
If you can use it normally as an average to the population without obsession kicking in
Mhm.
or a physical addiction or dependence, then it might be something to look at, you know?
Yeah. To each their own is
To
what
ea-
I say.
Exactly. Whatever. I am going to go into the part of the podcast that we talked about. That's the Dear Laura section. And this one is one of my favorites, actually. So this is, Dear Laura, my name is Johnny, and I'm a black gay man living in Los Angeles, California. And when I say that out loud, I laugh because in 2019, I'm still either the only black person or gay person or black gay person in my professional life and sometimes in my personal life. And in 2019, that still hurts. It still hurts that I have to fight to be seen, to be heard, to be taken serious. So thank you for letting me say that I'm a proud black gay man in America. So, you
That's
know,
powerful.
it is, right? Sometimes people ask me questions. This guy is just making a statement,
Yeah.
but I'd still like to respond to him,
Yeah.
you know, because that is powerful and something to put out there. What do you feel like as a response for him?
I think it's really a couple of things come to mind really quickly. Is one is that's really brave,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that he did that because again we talked about this today. This is not just about us.
Right.
It's always going to be helpful to somebody, whether we realize it or not. And I also think it's really great that he felt comfortable writing it to you. You know,
Mhm.
that you were this safe space for him,
Yeah.
and that your audience is a safe space for him. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, it is an honor to be trusted with anything like this. It's an honor to sit across from you and have a conversation with you, and to have someone, you know, write in and put their name down, not his last name, but his name.
Yeah.
So there's always that possibility of discovery, but he's
Yeah.
trusting that this will be heard in the way it was intended. And, you know, I really identify with, you know, kind of just laughing out loud about still being the only one in the room at times,
Yeah.
because that's also my experience. But, you know, I was just in Senegal for the first time, my first time in Africa last month. And I came back here with this enormous pride of where I come from and the beauty of the people in the region of the world from whence I come.
Yes.
There's actually a lot of, my 23andMe says I have a lot of DNA from Norway as well.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of it is sub-Saharan African, specifically West Africa, specifically Senegal
Yeah.
and Ghana. And that, you know, I think that I've always been proud of who I am. I was raised that way. I don't remember wishing ever that I was anything else, even though that might not be true. Maybe I just don't remember it. But it really instilled in me a different type of pride, because there are nations where I'm the norm,
Right.
you know,
Yes.
where people who look like me are the norm, and that's beauty. Like, beauty is just such a different standard than beauty is here. And so I'm really happy that he can stand up and say, I'm proud, and I'm gay, and I'm black in America, and like, here I am, you know. So thanks, Johnny, for that. 3 quick things.
Okay.
Do you have a sentence or two for any young black person of color, regardless of sexual or gender orientation, who may be looking to follow in your footsteps?
Be very clear about why you want to follow in my footsteps, because it will be a deep journey,
A deep journey.
and there are easier ways. Yeah, you said 1 or 2 sentences.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it at that.
Okay. I like that, hon. You can talk more about that. And then what's coming up next for you? What's next on the Arlan agenda?
There's a lot. We're figuring things out at Backstage about what the next 2 years or so look like for us, and it's same mission, just figuring out what we have the resources to do, and thinking about a couple of opportunities that we have and
Yeah.
seeing if they're right for us. So we'll continue to in one way or another, invest in underrepresented, underestimated founders.
Okay.
And for me, I'm going to be doing more speaking in 2020, so I'm getting geared up for that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be releasing a book in May of 2020.
Beautiful.
That is in pre-order. And so that's going to be a big part of 2020 as well for me. And then working on some other projects that I think will be interesting. And I'm just having the best time with Your First Million.
Mm-hmm.
You probably get it because of this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
It's just such a wonderful tool to kind of extract information. Anyone who says they want mentorship, one good way of doing that is starting a podcast and asking the questions that you would ask.
Yes.
Yeah.
It truly is. So that actually is part of my next question and answer. But if someone is a person of color, a female person of color who has a product that they want you to fund, what do they do? How do they contact you?
First of all, do as much research about Backstage Capital, my fund, as possible. Be like me. Do what I would have done to get in front of me instead of just saying, well, I need money and, kind of asking.
Right.
So do as much research as possible. We make it very clear and easy to find us. We have BackstageCapital.com. You can go to BackstageCapital.com/contact.
Okay.
And you can also reach out to some of the people on our team. So if you go to that same website, look at our crew page.
Yeah. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's very diverse and very impressive group that I get to work with all the time. And you can reach out to them individually. I would say hack your way. When people come up to me at events and they want to pitch me, I say, would you rather pitch someone who sees 2,000 companies a year? Or would you rather pitch someone who sees 100 companies a year and they're standing over in the corner and they're on my team and no one's talking to them?
Yeah.
That would be me. I would be over there in the corner talking to Chacho or Brittany or someone else on our team and getting them impressed by what you're doing and going through the office hours. Go through the process.
Yeah.
There's a process. We have office hours as well and different locations and online a lot of times. Follow us on social media and then also sign up for our newsletter.
And where can people follow you on social media?
You can follow me at Arlan Was Here on Twitter and Instagram. ARLAN Was Here on both, and I'm pretty active on both.
You are very active on both. I just want to say, as a woman of color, I really want to thank you for this work that you're doing. It's really important. It makes me very proud, by extension, that this is happening out in the world and that these people are being seen and heard and valued. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and stay tuned for our bonus after show, Scott Talks, coming up next.